Well, thanks for listening to the LCR Media Podcast, where we get to know the pros. I'm your host, LCR Naylor Taliaferro, and on today's 200th episode, this is a milestone, episode 200, I wanted to reflect a little bit on the last 8 years of my business, the evolution of my business, my life, and social media that led me all the way to this moment, to episode 200. So just thinking about it, you know, those of you that, well, for one, I want to say thank you for all of you listening for 200 episodes. Not all of you maybe have listened to all 200 episodes or have gone back to the archives and listened to previous ones. If you just started listening to the LCR Media Podcast, thank you. And I appreciate that for you listening. You know, I don't want to just talk to myself, even though it seems like I am. And part of this is therapeutic for me, just like mowing lawns and running my own business and all that. As crazy as that might sound in some ways, you know, it is definitely stressful being an entrepreneur and all that, but and creating content. But it's also very therapeutic. You know, it's a part of kind of like self-help for me in a way as well. If you once I go a little bit into the evolution here, it'll make a little more sense what I mean by that. But I really enjoy creating content for a myriad of reasons. What I just said, as well as it kind of taps into my creative mindset, my creative, energy that I have all the way back in high school. Like ninth grade was the earliest that I remember liking art, like drawing some of my favorite comic book characters from right off the comic books, just got a sketchbook and just started sketching them out. And some of my friends said I was pretty good at it. And then I took, like the standard, I guess where you have your options in ninth grade or something, or, is like music or art or whatever other, theater, maybe, like a handful of things like performing arts or something like that. And I just chose art, regular art, whatever that studio art, I think is what it was called, actually, if I remember correctly, because I had just started learning how to draw and just sketching comic book characters pretty well. And I enjoyed it for the most part. So I took that art class and I did good in that class. And then when I went into 10th grade and all the way through 12th, I just started taking all the available art classes and just focused on that because I enjoyed being good at something. I never excelled in sports or anything, like academically, I wasn't, straight A student or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure I could be if I tried and, applied myself, studied all the time, did all the homework. But I mean, some people are just naturally more academic, collegiate, whatever, all these big fancy words for being just book smart, like they're just fast readers and very just, this just seems like they're very intellectual people. There were those kids like that. Those are the valedictorians, that the 4-point whatever, over 4.0s, like all those straight A kids and students and all that. I was never that, whatever, all the different options out there. I was just never really, I was never a good class clown or this or whatever, I was never good at skipping class, whatever it is. I wasn't, the coolest kid, the most fashionable kid, whatever it was. I didn't excel at any of these other random categories, popular, unpopular, known or unknown, except for art. That was just something that I just was naturally really good at for whatever reason. And, we can trace through family history and all that kind of stuff. And I've discovered, other creative genes in my ancestry and so on. And it's carried over onto my kids, and my wife also is very creative and has those genes and, so on and so forth. So we can, go into all that stuff is a whole nother thing, but, I've dove into those things back over the years to, just for curiosity's sake. But so that, I followed that all through college and everything, and never really knew what I was going to do with that. I went to college for fine arts and all that. Never knew what I was going to be. Like, am I going to be a starving artist? Am I going to be, an art teacher? There's not a whole lot of options, kind of like musicians too. That's something that my son is really wrestling with right now because he's really good at music. That's where the artistic, creative genes, manifested themselves for him is with music. He's really, really good at music. He's got relative pitch, which is not perfect pitch. Perfect pitch means you can literally hear a sound and then play it on the on a keyboard or piano or something. Just you know exactly what it is. It's just something you're born with. Same thing with relative pitch. It's something you're born with. A small percentage of people are born like this, and some of them never even realize that's a thing. If they were never involved in music in school or in their life, they just grow up being a doctor, a lawyer, or entrepreneur or whatever, you know. And they never even know. But my son is relative pitch, which means you get close to what the sounds are. So he can basically just like sound stuff out. Like he hears a song and he can figure out how to play it by ear, which is what perfect pitch and relative pitch are. It just means you can listen to music, songs, sounds, and put it together, figure it out on a keyboard, a piano, or any kind of instrument that has multiple different sounds and keys, you know, high, low, and mid, so that you can create a song, any general song of any sort. So that's, you know, again, that's something that we discovered really early on with him when he was like in middle school, or no, I think it was like towards the end of elementary school or something. He was very young, but so that's you know, something that he's excelled in and focused on and wants to go to college to do, to major in music and all that. But again, it's like, what do you do with that? You know, are you going to be a performer? Are you going to be a teacher? And it doesn't seem like a whole lot of glaring options for all that. But so I say all that to say that I'm a very creative person. Like those genes are just flowing in throughout me. Like the energy is just beaming through me constantly. And for a long time, it was dormant. And when I was in retail, you know, when I left college and focused on going full-time in retail to get into retail management. And that's what I did for over 15 years. I really didn't do a whole lot with art or being creative. You know, I mean, there was times, you know, like with retail, you know, you have to, you know, they give you a book of all of the different plans, you know, of how you're supposed to reset different sections of the store to look certain ways with all the new products that's coming in, and mannequins or displays of some sort, or whether it's a clothing store or sporting goods store. I worked for both. You know, you've got displays and all kinds of different ways of, you know, making merchandise look eye-catching, captivating, and organized and neat and you know, attractive, appealing, and all that stuff. So, you know, part of my creativity came out in that. Because, I mean, there were some people that just didn't seem to do very well with those simple kind of things. They just weren't that kind of, you know, they were just more of a sloppy type person, and they just couldn't keep things neat and tidy and crisp looking. And I just naturally have an eye for detail like that. And I think that is part of my creative energy and genes that I have, you know, being an artist and so on. So when I started getting into social media shortly after starting my lawn care business, that's when I kind of like reawakened, you know, all of that energy and all that creative energy and the artist inside me, starting with YouTube, and that's led all the way now into podcasting. So I say all that because, you know, that's why 200 episodes in, I really enjoy creating content. I enjoy creating podcasts. It's a way for me to have more of a conversation than I can normally have on YouTube, because people are just, you know, moving on to the next video a couple seconds in or a couple minutes in or whatever craziness our ADHD or ADD society that we're in now. I blame Amazon, right? They get everything same day. Not everything, but you can get stuff same day. It's just crazy, you know, the Willy Wonka factor. You know, I want it now, Daddy. You know, I want it now, Daddy, or whatever the heck nonsense. You know, they just want it now, and there's no more patience left. You know, and it's just whatever. It is what it is. So YouTube is not, you know, that platform to, you know, it's visual. So you don't want to just sit there and watch nothing, basically watch a talking head or watch this or that, or, you know, unless it's something really important that you're dialed into, someone really captivating, or, you know, explaining something that you really need to know or learn or want to, or so on. But so, you know, the YouTube part really helps me with the visual creativity. You know, I enjoy recording different things, kind of telling different stories, having different scenes, editing in different ways, just keep, you know, throwing some music in there, some transitions, just my thing is with YouTube is if I find it interesting, if I enjoy watching my own videos, and hopefully somebody else will enjoy watching videos. I can't stand, in the past when I was really rushing to try and get a video out just to get a video out, just to keep the algorithm in my favor and all that stuff. And, of course, my YouTube channel grew during those times, lots of consistent views and subscriber increases and all that. But it kind of watered down my creativity, and it became more of a job. And I get that part of it kind of that you have to be consistent. You have to build up, enough content and be consistent with it. I get that. So you have to really figure out how to batch it and, just plan it all out. But part of that took away from my creativity, and I hated trying to rush stuff out, just to throw a video out, quick, me talking, throw some, some B-roll with some, mowing or something or whatever, some quick stuff here and there. I enjoy just so that I can maybe potentially get like a topic out, something I wanted to talk about, something I wanted to share to hopefully help, you guys and girls in the community. Well, now with the podcast, I can do that hopefully a little bit better, a little bit easier, and you guys are tuned in a little bit more comfortably than trying to watch a video, right? You can just listen while you're driving or mowing or plowing or exercising or running or biking or, doing stuff around the house, maybe on an off day or rain day or something or whatever. By the way, check out my previous episode about, what to do in the rain, or let's talk about rain days. Very interesting food for thought there that I shared on there. But at any rate, however you're listening to any podcast, it's different than when you're watching a YouTube video, right? You can't do any of the things I just mentioned and watch YouTube video. You literally have to stop whatever you're doing and watch a video, just like you're sitting down and watching a TV show or a movie. It's the exact same thing with YouTube, whether it's on your phone or not. Yes, that's more convenient. You could be sitting in your truck or whatever, you could be on your lunch break somewhere, just, put some headphones in or something and just watch a video, a YouTube video or anything on your phone. But that's few and far between, and you can't do any of those other things. Like I said, you just have to stop and watch that. So I get it. So it's two different platforms, and, one needs to be more visual, a little bit shorter, or a lot shorter, so that you can kind of just, put out what you want to put out so people can watch it and get what they need out of it, whether that be entertainment, education, or both. And then, be done with it. And the podcast is what they call long form, so I can really get into it. So 200 episodes in, I'm really excited. Can't wait for what the future holds. I don't have any plans on slowing down or stopping with the podcast. It's something that is also a little bit easier for me to create content than YouTube, because for one, I have Mr. Producer, who's the best producer in the biz, right? That was a key component to me starting my podcast. I wanted to start my podcast back in 2018, but I didn't start it until 2020, I think, 2 years ago. Yeah, 200 episodes 2 years ago. So it's almost like 100 episodes a year, but which is a good way to keep track and a good achievement. I feel like good momentum or good cadence, good rhythm. There you go. Jeez. But at any rate, I thought about doing a podcast back in 2018, right when Paul Jameson from the Green Industry Podcast was starting his podcast or wanted to start his podcast. And I was doing Get to Know the Pro on YouTube, where I was traveling around the country and hanging out with guys and girls in the industry, in the community, whether they had a YouTube channel or not. They all had good stories to tell, and I wanted to share them, spend a day in the life with them, just tell their story to hopefully inspire others. And I thought about maybe making a podcast based off of that, which is kind of why I start off every episode here on the LCR Media Podcast, where we get to know the pros, because that's kind of a spinoff of my Get to Know the Pro series on YouTube, because that's what I really wanted to do with the podcast, was focus on additional interviews that I didn't get to on the YouTube series, the 2 seasons that I had, the season and a half, I should say. Season 2 got cut short because of COVID, but the season and a half of YouTube Get to Know the Pro videos, I could extend that onto the podcast and kind of breathe new life into it and kind of create something else, with it, something new and exciting and an extension of Get to Know the Pro. And in some cases, I was able to, interview someone on Get to Know the Pro or on YouTube, have YouTube video, and then have a podcast at the same time and record us podcasting for the video as well. And then you can just kind of continue the conversation on the podcast. So this way, if we have a 30-minute conversation on the podcast, the YouTube video is not 30 minutes. It's, maybe 10, 15 minutes. And you kind of see a little snippet, maybe like 2 minutes of us talking on the podcast. And then you can just go down in the description of the YouTube video and click on the link for the actual podcast. That'll take you right to that podcast that you saw us recording on that video, and then listen to the whole thing in its entirety. Maybe like, so you watch the video wherever you are, maybe you're on your break, and then you're like, oh, cool. There's a podcast. You're done with your break. You're done with the video. Click on the link, get that all queued up to listen to the podcast. Get back in the truck or whatever you're doing, wherever you're going, get to work, press play, boom. Then you can listen to the whole rest of the conversation. So that was kind of my whole theme there. But of course, doing I want to do more than just an episode here and there. I want to be consistent, have, 2 episodes a week is what I've been doing for 2 years now. And I like that rhythm. And that's a lot of episodes. That's 200 episodes. So I haven't, had 200 videos with 200 interviews like that. So, of course, there's a lot of these in-between guest episodes, as I say, IBGs.
Toro's brand new battery-powered Revolution Series products are changing the lawn care industry. With all-day runtime from the innovative HyperCell battery system, you can expect to power through your entire day, every day. Head to revolution.toro.com to see how Toro is transforming the game with the latest equipment innovations. Or click the link tree in the episode description to get you there fast.
Back in 2018, though, I felt like I didn't have any more margin, at all in my life to then dive into, a podcast. Paul was just starting to figure it all out for himself. And he's like, man, it's a lot of work. It's really involved if you want to have a professional podcast like I really want to do. I want to have the most professional podcast I can have and just go all in. And he was just starting to dabble into it. And he didn't even have Mr. Producer doing anything yet either. He worked with Mr. Producer at the radio station, but they were doing radio stuff. And it wasn't until however many episodes later, maybe half a year to a year later, that, Mr. Producer evolved into Mr. Producer, from just being the radio assistant manager at the radio station to Mr. Producer and helping Paul's episodes sound better and, all the great things that Mr. Producer does and take the editing out of Paul's hands so it frees him up to record more content and travel and do more things and not have to worry about sitting by a computer and doing all the editing, which is where I revisited the idea of a podcast when that happened. I was like, oh man, maybe I can, because I think Brian Fullerton Unfiltered podcast had come out. And he was using Mr. Producer, and that was really it. It was just Paul and Brian. And I was like, man, that would be awesome if I could get Mr. Producer to produce my podcast, and then I wouldn't have to worry about that extra time to sit down and edit every episode. I could just record the content, which is the same challenge I have with YouTube, right? Like I can record videos while I'm working or doing whatever I'm doing. That's kind of the easy part for me, is creating the content, but then sitting down and editing it all the way I want it to be edited. That's what's time consuming, especially for YouTube. Video is a lot more time consuming and more tedious, but it's also enjoyable for me, but it just takes time. And I don't have a ton of time these days to invest in that. Or at least I didn't, over at that time frame and so on. But, it's so, audio, it's just one thing you're editing. You're just editing the audio, it's just one aspect. Where video, it's the video and the audio. Sometimes you got to sync things together and this and that, and you're adding transitions, adding music, extra music, whatever. So a lot more involved there. So it would be great to have someone just edit my YouTube videos, but then there's like, oh man, it's, again, because of all those components, I would want it to be edited the way that I would want it to be edited. So it's just like, I might as well just do it myself for now anyway. But then that there's additional costs there to have someone edit a YouTube video and so on and so forth. So I just invested in having Mr. Producer edit my podcasts and just keep it like that, because it's just me talking or me interviewing folks, and then he's making it sound extra rich and crisp. Any issues that need to be addressed, anything needs to be edited out or cleaned up or whatever. He does all that in the back end, maybe some communication with me, about it, some quick text or emails or a phone call if we really need to hash something out to get an episode sounding just right. And that's it. We're done. And he does it, bangs it out, and it's good to go. I don't have to worry about it. I know it's going to sound great every time. And there's not really much input for me to even have other than, oh, I like this intro, not that intro, or can you do this or that? Can you switch this around, for this next upcoming episode or something like that, and that's it. So it's been very easy, very, very user friendly, I should say. I wouldn't say easy, but it's been easier for me to create podcast content than YouTube content. But I really enjoy creating YouTube videos as well. So I like to do both. It's just been very challenging to do both and run my lawn care business and plan events, for the community with LCR Media, and spend time with my family, which is actually the first thing, and everything else kind of comes after that. And, sometimes YouTube and some other things end up kind of on the back burner, or all the way at the bottom of that list. But at any rate, all that being said, and just going on and on about how grateful I am and how much I enjoy creating content, especially podcasting, because it is a lot easier for me to squeeze these in whenever I can throughout the week, every week, and get some good value, hopefully, into it, so that you guys can get that out of it. And because I know I enjoy listening to other podcasts and try and get all over our space and other industries and spaces all over the place, all kinds of podcasts I'm stumbling upon all the time that's really good value that I get out of it. Maybe it's just one particular episode. Maybe I go through and there's a whole bunch that I like and I just love that podcast in general, and so on and so forth. So hopefully I provide that same value to you guys listening and those to come. So there's all that. So that's kind of been, I guess, the evolution of my YouTube, podcasting, social media. Of course, Instagram, Facebook is all kind of mixed in there. I did Snapchat for a little while. I'm still on Snapchat, but I don't really post anything on there. Just kind of talk to some friends and some groups here and there. I started dabbling in TikTok a little bit because, I've heard it was all the rage, but I just really just don't have time to dabble in 50 different things, so I just try to focus on the main things that give me the most enjoyment out of being creative, as well as where I feel like I can deliver the most value, like podcasting and YouTube. So I'm really pumped about YouTube Shorts. I know that's been a thing for a little while now, and I've been trying to do that here and there, but I know YouTube is ramping that up. So I'm excited to try and focus on that more, because I've been really having fun with Instagram Reels, which YouTube Shorts is basically, all this stuff came from TikTok. Instagram Reels is their version of that, and YouTube Shorts is their version of that. So I've kind of gotten a lot of practice with Instagram Reels, so hopefully I'll be able to just transition to YouTube Shorts relatively easily as well. So as that gets more prevalent with YouTube, and they focus more on that and make it easier and add more features and so on and so forth. So hopefully I can just keep creating stuff on those two platforms, YouTube and podcasting. That's really where it's at for me. That's where I really enjoy creating content. Again, I'm still on Instagram and I have fun with that, dabble on that, whenever I can, and a little bit on Facebook. And the other stuff, is just kind of like whatever, TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, all that stuff just kind of in the background where I kind of hardly ever address it, just when I'm feeling it for some reason or something. But that's just kind of been my evolution over the 8 years of social media, which I stumbled upon right after I started my lawn care business, because I was trying to research how to be, a professional lawn care provider, because I was a homeowner that knew how to cut grass really well, take care of grass really well from a homeowner level. But I wanted to know what it would be like to be a professional, to be an actual contractor and get paid. So I was Googling things like, how to price this service, that service, estimating software, or how to do estimates, invoices, billing, all these things about like how business type stuff, right? Googling, trying to figure out, a logo and a business name and, apparel, uniform, shirts, whatever. That's just everything that there is about having a business. Obviously, getting a business license, that was like the easiest thing. Just Google that and find that in your county and do it and knock it out after you obviously pick a name and all that stuff. And just, all those things I was Googling. Different types of surfaces, how to prune crepe myrtles, how to trim boxwoods, or, how to this or how to that. And, as you Google one thing and a whole bunch of similar results come up, right? And they may not even be the exact thing that you Googled, but that might be relevant. And that's how I stumbled upon Geek to Freak. He was literally the first person on YouTube that was doing lawn care that I stumbled upon. Like the first video was, I think it was probably titled "How to Trim Pampas Grass" or something like that. And I'm like, what is that? And there's a thumbnail there and this big old pampas grass bush and Greg, holding some hedge trimmers and he's just right there about to cut them and very captivating. I'm like, let me click on this because I need to learn everything I can learn. I see it's a current video. I see all these comments from people commenting about it. And I look on his channel. He's got a bunch of other videos. It looks like he's putting out regular videos about lawn care. I'm like, this is awesome. It's like free education. This is cool. So click subscribe. Well, I had to go create a YouTube account so I could actually like and subscribe and all that and comment. And that's how that started. And then YouTube starts recommending other similar YouTube channels like Spencer Lawn Care and B&B Lawn Care and Top Notch Lawn Care. I'm like, wow, look at all these Lawn Care Millionaire, the Lawn Care Nut, all these OGs that were there right from the beginning. Seth the Lawn Surgeon, and a lot of these guys I discovered also because they were commenting on Greg, Geek to Freak, Lawn and Fitness, I believe was the whole official name of his channel at that point. People were commenting on there and I could see, Keith Kalfas and all these other channels that would comment if they weren't recommended, to me to watch their videos. I would see them in the comments and I would click on their profile and see that they have an actual channel with videos. And I would start watching their videos, subscribe, like, comment. And I quickly saw that there was a community there of regular content creators and people regularly viewing them, watching them and commenting on them. So I became a part of that, commenting on them as well. And then I quickly realized that there was a lot of things that nobody that I was watching was talking about that I was going through as a rookie, just starting my business in the very beginning. First year, I was stumbling and bumbling and trial and error and figuring all kinds of things out, doing all kinds of things wrong, doing some things right. And I'm like, none of these guys are talking about any of this stuff. So, and maybe it was also part of my creative, juices, the traits that I have, the energy inside me was gravitating towards what everybody was doing on YouTube. And I was like, man, that's cool. So maybe subconsciously that started brewing too. And I just made the decision to start my own YouTube channel. I mean, I already had a YouTube profile, so I just changed it all up to make it a channel, put the pictures everywhere on my profile, my little thumbnail thing and, the whole thing, pictures everywhere and description of my channel and start uploading videos. And then boom, there it is. And then I would be commenting and then people could, if people clicked on my profile in the comments and they would see I have a channel and so on. And then little by little, I would start being recommended to Paul Jameson back in the day before he was doing anything on social media. He was just watching YouTube videos like the rest of us while he was at the radio station in between, segments and stuff, working, the graveyard shifts, in the early days there and having a part-time lawn care business. So that's why he was interested in watching lawn care videos. So he was one of the OGs of the community, watching videos, commenting nice things and stuff. And he stumbled upon my channel. He's one of my first subscribers, would always comment on every video, something nice and positive. I named my channel Lawn Care Rookie because I was a rookie and I still am, right? Now I'm hashtag rookie for life, always trying things out, always trying new things, always trying to improve, and just live life to the fullest, right? So, I mean, that's how it all just kind of evolved. And, my channel started growing little by little and people started recognizing who I was. And then we started going to live events like the GIE at the time, which is now called Equip Expo. And we started meeting each other live and in person and getting to know the face, meeting the face behind the name and all that, or the face in front of the name really. But anyway, it's just, everything just started growing that way. My channel started growing, my social media presence started growing, my involvement in the community started growing, and the community started growing. More and more people started creating YouTube channels or Snapchat or now TikTok. Everybody was getting on Instagram and making YouTube channels as well. There's always been Facebook groups constantly, so that's been a thing for a long time now. So it just has really evolved into the community that it is now. Huge, thousands and thousands and thousands of people worldwide now, like-minded individuals, men, women, kids, everyone, all kind of united in the same way of being an entrepreneur, and having their own lawn and landscape business, hardscape, irrigation, all the above, and just getting after it. And we're all just helping each other, sharing content, whether it's entertainment, education, or both. We're just having fun. We're doing it, enjoying it, and the community keeps growing. And I'm glad to be a part of it. And that's how it all started for me. And that's just been the evolution. I've found so many opportunities along the way of how I could contribute to growing the community even more with different events. The meetup that was such a small original meetup with, Geek the Freak and Spencer Lawn Care, Keith Kalfas, just a handful of people. I wasn't even at the first one. A whole lot of people weren't, because it was my first year in business. I couldn't afford to make that trip down there, but I watched the YouTube videos after the fact, said, man, I really got to go. And then everybody who was everybody at that point went, and it was packed, and that little meetup became a pretty big meetup at the time. I mean, I'd say from 12 people to 50 people. That was a big jump. But then, but then the year after that, some things kind of changed in the community. Like I've told this story 100 times probably by now. And, some folks took a break from YouTube or moved on to other aspects of YouTube, got out of the industry, all the above, whatever. And I wanted to make sure that things didn't kind of, die down. I wanted to continue the great meetup that we had at GIE. I wanted to keep going to the GIE because it was such a great experience. Those first 2 years that I went, and going to the meetup was awesome. And so I created a Facebook group to organize that meetup, as well as organize everyone that's going to the GIE. So we had a one destination to streamline communication, where everyone's going to be, when they're going to be there, put events up in there, ask questions. And it's become this huge thing now where we've got over 2,000, almost 3,000 people. I call them GIE, now equipped fanatics that either want to go, have gone, or will go, or are going, to the biggest and greatest expo in our industry, the sixth largest trade show in the country out of all trade shows. It's huge. And even the GIE themselves, the expo themselves, equipped their staff is even, I've let them be, they asked to be to join the group, and I accepted them. And there's all kinds of other brands, that are in the group as well, that we all know and love and use in our business, or a lot of us do. Of course, we don't all love everything, but we have our preferences, of course. But a lot of great brands that do a lot of good stuff. Whether you're this brand or that brand trimmer, or this brand or that brand mower, they're all cutting grass, trimming grass, and so on. It's just kind of comes down to personal preference, dealer support, what you even have in your area, and so on. And of course, some have different nuances. Some might actually be better than others, or whatever. But they're all still good brands, and a lot of them want to be involved in the community, and more join the community as the years go on. So they keep coming into that group on Facebook called Road to Equip. If you're not familiar with that yet, you can go check that out on Facebook. Type in Road to Equip. It's everything Equip, leading up to it, before, after, during, and so on. All the details for all the meetups, not just the one that I have taken the leadership on, which was the original meetup at GIE. Now it's 600 strong, from 50 people to 600 people, off location. Have changed venues over the years to keep up with the growth, so that we can have a good time, and it still be organic, it still be free. There's food included, which in the original days it was at a restaurant right down the street from the expo. So if you wanted food, you just had to buy it yourself. A lot of people just buy whole pizzas and share it, stuff like that. But now at the venues that we go to. It's all free. It's paid for by the sponsors, by the brands that now sponsor this event, that want to be part of the community, and they're there and they get to hang out and talk and hang out with you guys and network and so on. So that's just been a great event. So that's been a huge evolution for me as well over the years. Just a huge, so grateful, a huge opportunity for me to be able to be a part of the community and help the community grow and just have a good time. Helps me grow. All the conversations that I have, I'm still constantly learning about my lawn care business from you guys as well as some of you guys learn some things from me too, which is really humbling and really cool. And I appreciate it. And that's why I keep trying to create as much content as I can to keep getting this stuff out there.
Hey friends, Mr. Producer here, and I've been listening to Naylor emphasize route density on his podcast for over a year now, and I've encouraged him to take all this material and create a masterclass to put all of his knowledge in one place and share it with you. This is going to be a live 3-week course. Nothing's pre-recorded. You'll have access to group live streams and one-on-ones with Naylor. Every session ends with action steps that you can implement right away in your business. Plus, you'll get a copy of the session recordings emailed to you. Hey, if you want to learn how to make $1,000 all the way up to $3,000 a day in lawn maintenance through route density, then you need to click the link in the episode description. Trust me, you won't be disappointed.
That's kind of, the whole basic, summary evolution of that part of my life and business. My lawn care business, from day one, my plan was to have crews. I wanted to have at least 2 to 3 crews. I never wanted to just stay solo owner operator forever because I knew, for one, I just didn't want to, I couldn't picture myself being like a 60, 65-year-old out there by myself, just getting after it, with a cigarette hanging out of my mouth or something, just sipping around on a stand-on or a sit-down, zero-turn, mowing lawns, trimming edging, doing all this stuff. I mean, at some point, your body just starts breaking down. You just can't physically do the same things, no matter how much you try to stay in shape and stay healthy and all that. Your body just isn't the same when you're 65 as it was when you were 25 or 35 when I started, my business, or whatever age I was. It was 8 years ago. So around there, 30 something, early to mid 30s. But, so I originally came up with a plan, the ultimate plan of having 2 to 3 crews. What does that look like? What kind of services do I want to offer? And I didn't have it all figured out from day one because I was going from a homeowner to professional. So I kind of really had to figure it out. I had a lot of trial and error. I had to figure out what services are even offerable. Like what services do you offer? I mean, beyond just cutting grass and fertilizing and spraying weeds, putting down mulch, trimming bushes. Those were all the basics. I'm like, is there anything else? What else is there? And even within that, what are the nuances? What are the types of equipment? What's the most efficient way to do these things? How do you price these things? All that stuff. Like I said, that's what I was researching in the early first year there, just trying to figure it out. And that's how I stumbled upon this community in its infancy. But so I started to evolve my business. I figured out a 5-year plan. I figured out the ultimate goal and then had 5-year plans. The first 5 years, I want to do this. So my first 5 years was I want to have 1 crew. The second 5 years, which is where we're at now, is to get to a second crew. So unfortunately, throughout the last, 8 years, I haven't had a stable or consistent, I should say, a consistent crew leader. So I've been the consistent crew leader during all the inconsistency, but I've always, not always, since from year 5 on, so the last 4 years technically, because I think going into year 5 is when I started hiring employees. So I went 4 years solo, and then year 5 started hiring employees. And I built everything behind the scenes to get ready for that. What do I do about payroll? Tracking time. What dialed in my services that I want to offer, my pricing, my route density, making sure I had only a certain amount of neighborhoods and they were all close together, so we're not driving all over the place and I'm paying guys just sit in a truck and all that. Like, had all these things dialed in as much as possible before I started hiring, employees and having payroll and all the stuff that comes with all that, and then increasing the amount of work that, start marketing a little bit more and getting more business to increase the amount of work so that I can keep growing my business. so I can get to a second crew and so on. So that's the stage I'm in now. But with COVID and everything, things got real wacky with labor and things being shut down. And, fortunately we were able to still work for the most part during all that, but I couldn't find workers. And, the green industry exploded. Every outdoor thing exploded because people were trapped at home, basically, trapped, quote unquote, everything was locked down. So they just wanted to get stuff done around the house. So they just contacting everyone and anyone and everyone that does stuff outside. So the industry exploded, but there wasn't enough people that wanted to do the work. So that was challenging. So that kind of delayed me a little bit, a little bit of a speed bump there in the progress of my business and trying to get to that second crew, have consistent crew leaders and all that kind of stuff. But, we're getting through it. We're working through it, trying to continue to keep moving forward, find good people and build on that, grow on that and so on. That's where I'm at now. I've got a couple of good guys. And that's where we want to keep growing from there. Hopefully I'll get a couple more in the spring and we can just, every spring there's a huge influx of work and it's difficult to manage. This year I really wanted to keep things manageable and not get too carried away with increasing the workload. I actually dialed it back a little bit, kind of scaled back some of the amount of accounts and things like that. And I'll get into a future episode where I really break down what my plans are for next year for my business. But there's going to be some big changes for that as well. Over the years, all these things I've learned and picked up, from, like I said, route density being a big thing, realizing early on driving all over the place is not a smart, a profitable way to mow lawns and fertilize lawns and things like that. If you're doing big multi-$1,000 landscaping, hardscaping projects, that's one thing. But if you're just doing weekly maintenance, monthly maintenance, going to the same places over and over again, driving all that extra, distances and going through all that gas and miles, wear and tear on your vehicle, that's just not worth it. It's not profitable. It doesn't make sense. And I figured that out real quick, and I was able to get more work in a day because I didn't have to travel so far. Everything's just in the same general neighborhoods surrounding the same general area. So I figured that stuff out. Like I said, getting my pricing dialed in for all the different services and figuring out what services I wanted to offer, which is, kind of everything grass, right? Mowing, fertilization, weed control, aerating and seeding, dethatching, and then, some of the softscaping maintenance as we say sometimes, like the trimming the shrubs a couple times throughout the year, putting fresh mulch down, in the spring, maintaining the mulch beds throughout the year with, keeping the weeds out, things like that, all those kind of full yard type, maintenance, versus no landscaping. Like I've been there, done that, but I'm not doing the, removing plants and trees and planting plants and trees and designing landscapes and no hardscaping, no irrigation, none of that kind of stuff. It's just not anything that I'm interested in at this time. And over the last 8 years of getting into, I dabbled in a lot of those things over the years, earlier more so than not. And I quickly found what I wanted to stick to, which I always enjoyed turf. When I was a homeowner, I loved grass and turf and all that. And I just wanted to stick with that and grow with that and see what else I could do. I didn't want to just mow lawns though, because that's tricky. You need to diversify and have at least two things. If you're just a mow, blow and go guy, that's challenging. That means you need a lot of lawns in order to make a decent amount of money. And it's just hard. It's hard to manage that much quantity. You're going to have a lot of headaches, a lot of things dealing with the weather and equipment breakdown. And it's just a lot if you're just doing a ton of lawns, if you're just mowing a ton of lawns, that's all you're doing. And then, once the grass stops growing, then what do you do? I mean, if you saved up a whole bunch of money, then you can just have the whole winter off. That's cool. Or maybe snowplow. That's cool. But it's just challenging, in my opinion, to just mow. I feel like if you can do something in addition to that, whether it's mowing and fertilizing and weed control, or mowing and landscaping, like a lot of guys just keep mowing, but they focus more on landscaping or hardscaping. That's where their passion is. That's not where my passion is. My passion is on treating the turf, taking care of the turf and all that. So that's what I've been focusing on all this time, and building my business in such a way, finding people that want to work with me that feel the same way about all those things, so that we can all be on the same page and have the same goals and achieve them easier. If I hire people that can't stand cutting grass. Well, that's one of our primary services. That doesn't really make sense, So, if I find someone that just wants to hardscape, that's just not going to fit. So, so all those things have just been factors in the evolution of my business. Equipment, I started with a Jeep Compass, a little 22-inch Husqvarna, push mower or self-paced, auto-paced mower, my Ryobi hand trimmer and blower. Like I know I've said a dozen times already, recently and over the years. And that's all I had, my first year part-time while I was still in retail management, out of my back of my Jeep Compass. But I had a handful of customers. I felt passionately that if I could go full-time all in, I could make something of this. And I needed to get out of retail management before I literally had a nervous breakdown. And that's what I did. I just put in my 2 weeks over the winter in retail management and just, dove all in, spent the whole winter researching that. Again, that's, started stumbling upon the YouTube community and all that, and finding out how to be the best contractor I can be, professional, service provider, and try to generate revenue quickly, and I was able to get customers quickly from, friends, neighbors, word of mouth, all the random different types of advertising, that I did for my business. I tried just about everything, flyers, postcards, door to door, Facebook, all kinds of stuff. Just trying to do whatever I could, all the different platforms, Nextdoor, whatever, all the different social platforms at the time and still, and just, a lawn sign, yard signs, everything that I could possibly think of and that I could find researching and that some of the guys on YouTube at the time were recommending and so on. So with all that, I was able to get up to like 30 lawns, I believe, to cut, weekly that first year, going into that first spring, right after I quit retail and in the winter. So that was good. I was driving all over town and I was providing all kinds of random services, cutting grass, but I was also doing other things. In addition to that, like, they would ask me for all kinds of odd jobs, miscellaneous things, landscaping or not, hey, can you help me move furniture in my house? Sure, why not? Like just anything, and so I've been there, done that, and realized the things that I really wanted to do and focus on what could be more easily scalable for me in my area, in my business, and what does that setup look like that I need equipment-wise, vehicle-wise, trailer-wise, garage, storage, shop-wise to be able to run all of that, manage all of that properly. So I quickly went from the Jeep Compass into I traded that in for a used F-150, Ford F-150, and borrowed some money from a family member to buy a 5x10 single axle trailer, open trailer, and a 48-inch belt drive Toro walk behind mower. And I still had all the other stuff, still had the, Ryobi hand trimmer and blower and the 22-inch Husqvarna mower. But I was able to purchase my first commercial product, which was my Echo 770 backpack blower. I got that at the end of my first year part-time with the money that I made. It was all extra at that point because I was still working retail. So I just took some of that money and I bought that backpack blower and felt like I was, I felt like I was living the dream because I had this big backpack blower at the time. It still is a great backpack blower, but of course now there's the Echo 8010 and 9010 and those things are beasts. But at the time I was like, man, that 770 is something I can really get after it. So, I'll save that leaf nightmare story for another day. But, actually that's go back to like episode 3 or 4 or something way back in the archives here on this podcast. And I told that whole story, but needless to say, you need more than a backpack blower for most leaf cleanup jobs. But at any rate, that was that. So I had the backpack blower, got the walk behind, still had the 22-inch mower. So I was really able to conquer everything. I think then I also and quickly was able to then buy a steel trimmer. That was my first trimmer, not an Echo trimmer. It was a steel FS90. That thing, I still have that, just like I still have the Echo 770. I gave my walk behind to my dealer a couple years back when I made a purchase of some new stuff, a grandstand multi-force and a whole bunch of other equipment. And I asked if he would take that and take some money off, of the purchase. And he said, sure. Well, yeah, I could do that. So I gave that to him. I wasn't ever really using it anymore. And I definitely wasn't going to use it once I got a second mower. So now I have two grandstands. One's a multi-force, one's not. One's 48 and one's 52. So I still have the small mower. I've gotten newer small mowers in the meantime since then. So I've got all the mowers I need to conquer any yard that I want to have, my ideal yards. Now and back then, I was also able to do that. And I was just really starting to figure out what yards, what areas, what neighborhoods, was able to pay that family member back for the money that I borrowed for the trailer and the mower by the beginning of the following season. So then I was debt free, but then I started reinvesting into other things to just keep growing and keep improving, what my equipment. And then, like years went on, and I think year 5 or something, my F-150 started kind of falling apart. Well, I had eventually actually in between there, I sold my 5x10 open trailer because as my business was growing, I just needed a bigger trailer to fit more stuff at one time so I can get more done while I was out or on specific yards. I can just do more than one service and so on, and not have to make trips back and forth to storage to swap out equipment. Because I started my garage at home, then I moved to storage because, again, I just started evolving with more stuff, and I wanted to have more storage and not fill up my garage. So I wanted the garage to be free for my kids to be able to play and have their stuff there, my wife be able to park in the garage and all that stuff. So I went to storage, and I've been in the same storage ever since. I've since expanded, contracted, been all over the storage place. I've got parking spots now for my enclosed trailer and so on. But I have a 7x16 enclosed dual axle enclosed trailer that I eventually got. That's great. Still have it. Great billboard on wheels, right? Can put my logo on it. So everyone sees it, contact information, everything. It's just great. So that's been more evolution there. Trucks kind of went through some trucks, got rid of the F-150, got the Ram 1500, and then realized that, that was not big enough for the evolution of my business and looking forward into the future. So I decided to go all in and get a Ram 3500. That was not the plan. I was going to go get looking at Ram 2500s, but the dealer said, hey, you can get a brand new 3500 for the same amount as these used 2500s that we have, because it's just all the promos and rebates, and it was around the holidays. So there's all of these discounts and stuff. And they were trying to get rid of the previous year model to make room for the incoming year model. So there's just all this stuff. So I was like, man, well, let's go for it. But then I was like, well, what is even the difference? Well, you can get more stuff for the 3500. Like there's the more payload. The payload is the amount of weight in the truck bed and the amount of passenger weight in the truck cab and so on. So all that together is your payload. So the 2500 payload is a little over 4,000 pounds. That 3500 payload for Ram is the single axle is a little over 7,000 pounds. So to me, I was like, holy cow, that's a big difference. I can put a lot of stuff in there. I can put mulch in here and all kinds of stuff, which I've since done year after year. I put wood sides up and I can fit 4 yards of mulch in there easy, barely even squats. It's like, this thing's a dream. Have the ramp rack for the mowing season. We load our grandstands up in there. Doesn't even flinch, So in hindsight, it worked out well that I ended up getting a 3500 because it's something that my business will never outgrow. It's big enough that I will never outgrow. I can just grow into. And now I can have all this weight in there, whether it be mulch, brush, debris, which none of that's nearly as heavy as mulch, but I've got the long 8-foot bed, the long bed, crew cabs, the biggest truck you can get, that's not a commercial grade truck, but it's a heavy duty truck, obviously, like the 2500 and the 3500 are heavy duty trucks. So, I mean, it's a big truck. It's a boat. It's a beast. I can do so much with it, whether that's the ramp rack, sides up to put mulch in, all that stuff. So I've really evolved into that. I traded in, got rid of both of my smaller trucks, the F-150 and the 1500, and now I just have the 3500. Been wanting to get a second truck, but couldn't find that consistent crew leader to even drive another truck. So I figured, why bother? And now everything, might as well reinvest my money in other things or just save it or whatever. And then now the market's all crazy with trucks and everything and inflation, all that. So I'm really like, okay, well, I think I'm just going to keep holding out and we'll just figure it out. We'll do the best we can. We'll see what happens this coming year, and maybe things will be a little bit better. I don't know, on all fronts, a consistent crew leader and more reasonable prices for trucks. But that would be the next evolution, so I can try and get to that second crew already, because that is the goal, right? And I said I broke it down at the 5-year plan.
Hey guys, Mr. Producer, and I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about the LCR Media Podcast merch shop. If you're looking for a way to support the show and share it with others who might also enjoy it, then check out our LCR Media Podcast exclusive merchandise. We've got t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, even an insulated water bottle for when you need to take a sip of water. I think I'll leave that one right there. Anyway, just click on the link in the episode description to see the products. Make sure to tag us on Instagram at LCR Media if you do snag some swag. And we sincerely appreciate you listening to and supporting the show by picking up some gear. Thank you, my friends.
That's been the evolution of my business. A lot of little nuances here and there that I'll go into more detail of, some more of different changes along the way that are leading up to the big changes coming up in the spring of 2023. I'll talk about that for another episode because we've already gone on for almost 55 minutes now. So I just wanted to kind of go through all of that and just a big overview summary. The most I could do of social media, business, and my life has been impacted by all of these things in so many ways. Of course, by quitting retail has obviously positively impacted, not having a nervous breakdown, right, has obviously positively impacted my life, my personal life, and the fact that I'm happier with what I do for a living and being creative by creating content makes me happier. So that makes me a happier person, a better father, better husband, better friend, better son, all that stuff. I mean, of course, I'm nowhere near perfect. No one is. I got lots of work to do. I've been trying to repair myself, self-help myself all of this time because I was damaged. I was like damaged goods from working in retail for 15 years, being used and abused by all kinds of crazy people coming in, treating you like garbage, and you just have to smile and wave, and all this nonsense. And of course, if people take it too far, you can kick them out and, whatever the deal is. But, for the most part, you just get abused by people and, customer's always right. That nonsense, slogan that's not right, not accurate and BS. But, I came from that damaged, and I needed to heal myself for myself, for my family, for my new clients, my business, right? And just so I can be whole again, be better. So that's been a process. Listening to podcasts, audiobooks, creating all this content has been part of my self-healing. Running my own lawn care business, which is something I enjoy. I enjoy lawn care. Of course, the business part can be challenging, but I've managed businesses in retail for so many years that it wasn't as difficult, but there are definitely challenges. There are definitely a lot of obstacles. But overall, I'd rather deal with that than retail, then they're my obstacles, they're my challenges. I don't have supervisors or managers breathing down my neck, getting on my case about these obstacles and these challenges or mistakes that I make and whatever. Like I learn them on my own, and I deal with it on my own, and it is what it is. I don't have to worry about a bunch of horrible bosses giving me crap all the time, so all that's made me a happier person as well. Went on more field trips with my kids when they were younger than I, in the first couple of years of my business, and I did their whole life. I used to be sick all the time. I'd get a cold to turn to bronchitis, laryngitis, sinus infection, ear infection, all these things, sometimes all at once. Well, one time I got pneumonia too, like all this stuff. Just strep throat, whatever, anything you can get. It would start from a cold and work into those things. Multiple times every year, 2 to 3 times a year, every year, especially the final years in retail. I was just a mess. I was just physically weak, mentally weak, and emotionally weak. Not a well person, not a good place to be. Since then, I haven't been sick once except for freaking COVID. Other than that, I feel like everyone's either been there or will be there at some point. But I mean, it's such a mild version now from everything going on and blah, blah, blah. Well, let's not go down those rabbit holes. But and I wasn't even that sick. Like my wife was just like Like, it seemed like she was dying. I'm like, do you need to go to the emergency room? Like, are we going to be those people? And, oh, everyone's in, we're filling up the hospitals and all that stuff. Like, she was really struggling for a long time. I feel like she was never going to get better. It was rough. And I was taking care of her, but I was also sick. But for me, it just seemed like a cold. Like, it was like hardly anything. I was very fortunate. I contribute that to a lot of things that probably I don't even know. But I also feel like it's because of the fact that I haven't been sick since I left retail, other than that one time, because I'm just a healthier person. I'm mentally, emotionally, and physically healthier. I eat better. I sleep better. I do things that help me feel better, give me energy, like creating content, working out at the gym, going for mountain bike rides, going on tons of vacations with my family, going on field trips with my kids, spending so much more time with my wife, making her more happy than she used to be. All these things, all those things, just making everything better just makes me stronger and able to resist bacteria and, disease and all the things. Doesn't mean that something, can't happen down the road. I'm not saying I'm invincible. I hope I don't get some sort of horrible illness or disease or anything like that. I think everyone hopes that and wishes that. Everyone wants to live a good, long, healthy life, mentally, physically, and emotionally. But that's not always the case. And no matter what you do, sometimes it just seems to just happen. At some point, your body just gets weak or whatever the deal is, and boom, that's it. Or you're just around something that's just too contagious to avoid, or whatever the scenario is. So, but I just say all that to say that that's just another evolution of my life, is that I've been healthy in a lot more ways than I ever was ever since I got into lawn care and social media and doing all these things that just give me life energy and just make me happy. And of course I'm still tired. Of course I'm still, physically weak or sore, after long days at times, and so on and so forth, but it's all worth it. And it's not all day, every day. I'm not going through life like a zombie. I'm in more control of my life. Of course there's still uncontrollable things, but a lot more controllable than what they used to be. So, my daughter's in college now. My son is about to go to college. I'm proud of both of them. My wife has been doing all kinds of great things over the years, enjoying herself, trying to figure out what she wants to do the most, from being, a stay-at-home full-time mom, taking care of our kids until they got school age, both of them, and then go back into the workforce and figuring out how to reconnect with that and doing all kinds of stuff with that over the years. Really helping me with my business because she's got a accounting, bookkeeping background. So she does all that for me. She does all my bookkeeping. We now have an accountant, a CPA, because I just have too many things going on for her, her words, so she just wants to make sure that she doesn't mess anything up, and it's just too much anyway. It's a lot of work with everything else she's got going on. So she just does the bookkeeping, the monthly bookkeeping, and just sends everything out quarterly to our accountant so that everything is taken care of. So by the end of the year, it's really just, fine tuning stuff. It's not a whole lot of work that we even have to do for taxes and all that kind of stuff. But having someone like her that knows that on my team is fantastic, and she does payroll and helps me with all kinds of administrative and business, like behind the scenes type stuff, when it comes to all that. So that's been helpful, and she's had a lot of jobs that are in that field over the years. So that's helped out. One of her jobs showed her how to trained her on QuickBooks and certified her. So she's a certified QuickBooks user, whatever the heck it's technically called, which helped greatly when I decided to start using QuickBooks for payroll and bookkeeping and everything. So it's just been great all the way around with that as well. She's been very helpful. So, and we look forward to the future. We're going to be empty nesters soon, which is kind of sad. We're going to have to reinvent our daily routine once our son goes to college, and we're not sure what our daughter's going to do after college. She'll be graduating at the same time. Our son will be graduating high school this year, and our daughter will be graduating college, God willing, right? So, once, my daughter graduates college, we're not really sure. She's not really sure exactly what she's going to do yet either. So she might come back home for a little while until she figures it out. We don't know. Or she might just go right off into the wild Blue Yonder there or whatever, all out and doing her own thing in her own life. And that'll be sad, but great at the same time. We'll be happy for her and proud of her. But so we're not sure what all that's going to happen, but potentially we could be empty nesters with our son in college and our daughter off doing who knows what, living her life. Just me, my wife and I will be like dating all over again. It'll be, be reconnecting in a whole new way, and it'll be fun and exciting, but it'll be sad, I'm sure, a lot as well, to kind of get over the shock of not having kids in our life every day anymore to parent. It becomes a part of your life for 18 years and another 18 years or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I guess 20 something years, right? Because, our daughter and then our son and so on. So it's a lot. It's a big portion of your life. It's like half of your life at one point. You're like, holy cow, what do we do now? So that's what we're figuring out and looking forward to, and not at the same time, and kind of just from a personal standpoint. So that's what we got going on there. I told you everything that's going on in my business, and there's going to be a separate episode dedicated to what's coming next year. And then, as far as social media, I'm just going to keep getting after it. I have a previous episode talking about a little bit about that too, where I just want to push harder with LCR Media, see what else I can do. I just love creating events, networking, community events, keep bringing people together, keep educating folks, just help you guys, help the community grow to greater heights, so we can keep rising this industry, keep raising this industry, because like we say, rising tide raises all ships. So I'm just trying to help contribute to raising the tide. That's my thing. So LCR Media, I think, is positioned well and has done a good job and has a lot of great opportunity and great connections to be able to keep raising that tide. And I just want to keep pushing harder with that, see what else I can do. And and obviously keep creating content along the way about it, and just keep having fun. So that's kind of my goals with that too. So there you have it. This was the longest IBG episode I've had in some time now, but it was a lot. It was a lot of stuff. It was episode 200, right? So I had to give you my best rabbit hole full. I feel like I kind of kept on track though, but it was definitely not short and sweet. It was long, and I don't know, the opposite of short and sweet is not what I want to say, I guess, because I still feel like I provided a lot of value, or just some updates, that's for sure. And a lot of gratitude yet again for episode 200, for you guys listening to episode 200 and potentially all 200 episodes or 199 episodes prior to this. I thank you guys. I look forward to connecting with you guys in the future and continuing to create content, grow my business, and enjoy my life. On that note, thank you to the Toro Company for sponsoring the LCR Media podcast, of course. And thank you yet again to everyone for listening. Until the next episode 201, this is the Lawn Care Rookie signing off.
This has been an LCR Media and Mr. Producer production.